Hello YouTube, Raul here. In this video we're gonna look at styled components, a library that allows you to write CSS in JavaScript. It's one of the best libraries to write styling in React, and as it says on their official website, it uses the best bits of ES6 and CSS to style your application without stress. So let's get started. First, let me show you the app we're gonna be using. I wrote some HTML markup just so we can get started and so we won't lose time with writing it. If you want this markup right here, you will find it in the GitHub repository in the description below. So I have a normal React application created with Create React App, from which I eliminated all the unnecessary files. I just left the app.js and index.js. Index.js is the same as it was created. And in app.js, I added 4 components here inside of a div. These components contain just markup, no styling, and we'll go through all of them in a second. So in header, we have a div which says style components crash course, this h1 at the top. Then in the hero section, we have divs that each contain an h2, a paragraph, and a button. So we're gonna style them with styled components. Then the animation.js just contains a div inside a div. We'll use this to create some sort of spinner that you can use to display in your app. And then we have a footer which just has a div inside with an h2 inside. So nothing special about the application. I just wanted some boilerplate I can write my styling on. And just so we don't waste time, I went ahead and installed styled components. So before we get started, go ahead and run npm install --save styled components. So this right here. And after it finishes running, run npm start and you should have the same setup as I do. Or if you clone the GitHub repository, this right here will already be in your package.json. So you would just have to run npm install and then npm start. Okay, so let's get started with our first introduction to styled components. I'm gonna close all the files first and then let's go into header.js, and here we're gonna write our first styled component. So we are going to import styled from styled components, and then we are going to create a new constant. We're gonna call it styled header, and it's gonna be a call to the styled that we imported, and then after the chaining operator, the dot, we have to add an HTML tag. So in our case, it's gonna be a div. After this, the string template literals. So these 2 backticks at the top. And inside of these backticks, we can write the CSS that we want for our component. So inside of this, we just write normal CSS. For example, we could write background color, and I have a color picked up for this tutorial. Let me copy it. And then if we hit save, this styled will generate a component with the styling attached to it. So it doesn't do anything fancy. It just creates a component with some class name that has this styling. So we can take this component and replace our div. And now if we hit save and refresh the page, because it didn't refresh automatically, you will see that we have the background color right there. And let me show you what that does in the developer tools. So here we have the body. In the body we have a root div. In that root div we have this, the first one right here is gonna be the header. And you can see it has an h1 with the text we want, and on that div it creates just a normal div, nothing weird about it, and it has some class names. And these class names, we can look at them below, and one of the class names has the background color attached to it. So this is the way style components creates your styling for the components. Great. Before we go further, let's add some more styling to our header. So let's put a color on it so it looks nice. I have another one picked up already. It's this light teal bluish color, and let's also add a padding and here we have our header with a title. Now the next thing I want to show you is how you can style HTML elements that are inside of a styled component. So to do this, style component uses a Sass-like structure, so you can go inside of the styling for your style component and just write h1 in my case here, and then add your styling to that. So I can do here text align. This is the way you style HTML elements inside of another style component. Great. Now going further, let's head into our hero.js file, and inside of this hero.js I'm gonna show you more features that style components has to offer. The first thing we are going to do is create some normal styling, just so we can get with these divs right here to a place where we have 3 cards, so a 3-column layout, so with 3 cards on them. So let's create the basic styling for that. I'm gonna again import styled components. Then I'm gonna create a button called div. I'm just going to create some basic display flex, justify content center, and a padding of 24 pixels. And let's attach the hero container, replace the topmost div with it. Now if we save, you can see we have a 3-column layout right here. So before we go further, I just wanted to say you will see me paste my component name when replacing divs only in the first tag. I have an extension which auto completes my closing tag. So for example, if I want to change this h2 into an h3, it will auto replace it. You can find it in the extensions tab. It's HTML auto close tags. Okay, now let's create a little bit of styling for our cards. So we have again a styled, and inside of this style div, let's add some basic styling. So we're gonna display again is gonna be displayed flex. Flex direction is gonna be column. We're gonna align items center and just center. So this will make sure that everything is at the center of our divs. Now let's put this card component on all 3 divs right here. So replace the first one, the second one, and the third one. And you can see that the title is aligned in the center, and also the button is aligned in the center. Now let's see how we can change the styling for our component based on inputs from, for example, the state, or how we can customize a styled component. What I mean by this is we are going to pass a prop to the card, and we are going to change the styling on that card based on what prop it receives. So for example, I want to pass a prop that's called inverted. Nothing more, we're not going to give it a value for the moment, we're just going to pass inverted. And then we're going to go inside the card and set the background color to a different color based on if the card has an inverted prop or it doesn't have an inverted prop. How we do that, how we can access variables or props inside the style component, is using the way you access variables inside the template literals. So we're going to have to write $sign, and then between brackets, you're going to have a function that receives the props. So the props passed to this style component. And from these, we can check have an inverted property, and using a ternary operator, we're going to return one color if we have the inverted property and another color if we don't. So let me just grab the colors I have right here. So if we have an inverted color, then we're gonna have this light color. So if we have the prop, it's gonna be this light color. And if we don't have the prop, then we are going to have this dark color. And you can see the first card has the dark color and the second and third ones don't. Okay, I'm gonna change this because I want the middle card to be inverted. So I'm gonna move the inverted prop on the second card. And there you go. Now, another way we can change this is we can actually pass values in these props. So we can, for example, add a default for, let's say, 32 pixels. So we're going to add this on each of the cards. The first one is going to have 32 pixels. The second one is going to have 16. And the third one is going to have, again, 32 pixels. For the moment, nothing changed. But let's access the value of that padding inside of our style. Again, we're going to say padding. We're going to add the padding top and bottom to be by default 24 pixels. So this is going to be equal on all the cards. But the second value, here we can access the same function that receives the props. But this time I'm going to destructure the default padding value inside those props. So I'm going to get the default padding and I'm going to return it. So just return that value from the style component. And at the end, I'm going to write pixels because this expression right here is going to return a number, 32 or 16. So we have pixels. Now, if we save, you will see that our cards received the padding that we added. And what I want to do next is I want to have the text color on these dark background cards. I want it to be white, and we're going to leave it black for the inverted one. So I'm going to copy this whole background color. We're going to delete the background part. And here where we return the colors, I'm going to return black for the inverted card and white for the other cards. And now you can see they all look just a little bit better. Great. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how you can add pseudo selectors. So how you can add hover effects, focus effects, before, after, and all the other pseudo selectors. For this, we are going to use the button that we have right here. So we're going to create a new constant for it. It's going to be called button, because components are by default, they should be created with an uppercase letter. And this time we're going to have a styled, and inside the template literals, we are going to write our styling now. So let's give it a background color. I have another one picked up. It's just a little bit lighter blue than the dark background one. Then we're going to have the color is going to be white, padding of 12 pixels top and right. Line again, none, because we don't like that. and a margin top of 24 pixels, a little bit down. So this is for the basic styling. Next, we're gonna see how you can add the pseudo selectors. Let's add the buttons replacing our normal button components. And if we save, you're gonna see the default styling was added. Now to add hover effects, you are going to write the AND operator, and then you're gonna type colon and different from how you would create your component, how you would create the hover effect in CSS. In CSS, you would have button with a lowercase b and then colon hover. Here you just type the AND. This will know that it has to take the button and add a hover effect to it. And what I want to do as a hover effect is just set the opacity to 0.7. And now I can hover the buttons, and you can see they turn a little bit transparent when we hover them. So this was it for how you can add pseudo selectors. Next thing is we're going to look at how we can add media queries to our components. For this, we're going to go back on our hero container, and on this container I want the cards, if the width is less than 720 pixels, I'm gonna put the cards to be displayed vertically, not horizontally like they are right now. So to write media queries, you're this CSS and write media at media, and then set the max width to 20 pixels. And here we're gonna set the flex direction to column, and we're also gonna align center. And you can see we have media queries added. If I go ahead and increase this, it goes back to having a 3-column layout, and under 720 it goes to have a vertical layout. Great. Now the next thing I want to show you is how you can extend the components. So we want to have, let's say, this button right here is our default styling for buttons throughout our whole app. And we want all our buttons to be, for example, with a padding of 12 pixels and 24 left and right, and have a margin top and so on. But for some specific buttons, we want to have some different characteristics to them, some different styling. We could do this by passing props and then checking those props here inside of the styled button. But one other way you can do is you can define another component. Let's call it inverted button, and it's gonna be a styled. But this time we're not gonna button, it's gonna be a styled, and then between parentheses we're gonna pass the button component that we created before, and then the template literals. And now our inverted button will inherit all the properties from button, and we can add some more. So for example, what I want to do here is set the background color to white and set the color to that blue we had before. So just switch the colors between them. And now this is just a normal component again. So we can go on the second button, so the button in the second card, and replace the normal button there. And you can see we have a white button now on this component. You can do another one. So for example, now we can extend this inverted button right here. So we can do rounded inverted button is gonna be, and then the inverted button. And now we're gonna add a border radius 4 pixels, and we're gonna put this rounded button on the button in the third card. And now you can see we have a rounded inverted button. But the awesome thing about this is if we change the styling on our initial button component, so for example, let's make it wider, let's double the pixels left and right to 48 pixels, all our buttons will change their styling. So they all will keep their proportions every time. So this is the nice part about extending buttons. You could have done all of these just by passing props, but if you have too many, your styling can get a little bit clunky and it's just heavier to understand. This way, everything is clean. Everywhere you look, you're gonna know that this is an inverted button, this is a normal button, and so on. Great. Now, going further, I want to show you how you can do animations. For this, we are going to go into our animation.js component. And here we are going to again import styled from styled components. And let's define first the container. So this div on the outside, we are going to use this container to put the inner div in the middle of the page. So we're gonna center it. So let's do a styled div. And here we're just gonna have again display flex and then justify content center. You're not gonna see anything even if we put the container now because the inner div doesn't have any styling on it. So let's do that now. We're gonna have another constant called, let's call it square, because we are going to create a spinning square. It's gonna be again a styled div. And on this div, we're gonna have a width of 50 pixels, 50 pixels. And let's background color of red so we can see it. And if we put the square on the center div, you can see we have a red square in the middle of our line. Now let's animate this square. So to create an animation, we're gonna have to import something else from styled components, and that something is called keyframes. And with these keyframes, we're gonna create another constant. Let's give it a name of, and it's gonna be a call to keyframes, and then again the tagged template literals. And now here we can write our keyframes. So we have we're gonna have something at 0%, then something at 50%, and then again something at 100%. So at 0%, I want a transform rotate of 0 degrees, then a background of, let me copy the color, it's gonna be one of the blue colors we used before, and a border radius of, and this same styling we're gonna have it again at 100%. And I'm gonna paste it at 50%, and let's just change the values. So instead of 0 degrees at 50%, we're gonna have 360. The color is gonna be this light one that we have on the second card. So let me paste that here. And the border radius is gonna be 50%. So we're gonna have a nice rounded border. So we have this rotate keyframe, and now we can put it on our square. So we write the animation CSS property. Then we can access with $, and between brackets here we can get the rotate animation. And now we have to give it the amount of time, the type of animation, I'm gonna set it to linear, and I'm gonna also set it to infinite so it continues animating. And now you can see we have a spinning square that changes into a circle and then goes back. And we can also remove this background red property. Okay, The next thing I want to show you is how you can add some global styling to your whole application. So you can see here at the top we have this padding around our header. That padding comes from the body, and since we don't have anywhere the body HTML tag, we have to style it a different way. We could just use a normal CSS file, so maybe app.css that I deleted before, and write our styling for the body there, but it wouldn't be used with style components. So style components also offers us a way to write global styling. To do this, we're gonna go into app.js, we're gonna import from style components, we are going to get create global style. With this create global style, we're going to create another component. I'm going to call it global style, and then it's going to be create global style. And now between the template literals, we can write our styling that's going to be applied to all the elements inside our application. So here we can write our styling for the body, for example, and we can set the 0 and the padding to 0 on it. And now if we add the global style component, you can add this anywhere inside your app. I'm just gonna add it here above all the others. And now you can see our margin and padding disappeared from the top. You can write any CSS here. So for example, if you want all of your H1s, let's say, to have a border, for example, a border of 1px solid red, then you can do that, and you can see my H1 in the header got a border. You could also reset other stylings that you want here. So for example, if you don't want the text decoration on links, you can do that here like this, text decoration, and set it to none. And my autocomplete messed it up a little. And now all the links won't have text decoration. So if we go in the hero, for example, and in the first card, we add a tag with a ref going to nowhere, and just write test here, for example, we get a link, the normal blue link color, but it doesn't have the text decoration anymore. So this is the way you would do it. Now, another thing about global stuff in style components is having a global theme. So a way to set some default variables that you can access throughout your whole application. So for example, you could see I always copied these colors everywhere in all the components, and that can be really annoying if you have a big app. It's better to have them stored in a component. So for this, we're gonna import a theme provider from style components, and I'm gonna just replace this outer div here. I'm gonna replace it with the theme provider because we don't really need the outer div. And to this theme provider, we have to give to the theme prop, we have to pass an object with all our global theming. So for this, I'm gonna create another constant called default theme, and this is gonna be an object. Now inside of this object, I'm gonna put, for the moment, just two things. We're gonna have a dark color and we're gonna have a light color. I'm gonna get these two colors right here in the header. So let me copy them from the header. So the dark color is this blue here, and the light color is the other one. And now if we pass this default theme object, these hexadecimals have to be inside a string, so between apostrophes, because if not, if you don't do that, it will throw an error. So now we pass the default theme object to the theme provider, And now we can access these dark and light colors inside of our app. So for example, if we go into header.js, here instead of using this color directly, we go the same way we access the props. We get the props, and on these props we have a theme key, so it's going to be props.theme, and on the theme key we have the... And now if I save, well, nothing changed because I used the same color, but let me show you it works if I use the light color instead. Now you can see our header is a solid color, but if I highlight it, the text is still there. Let's also replace the text. So here we're gonna have the props, but this time I'm going to destructure the theme. I prefer to do it like this because I don't have to write props too many times. And now I return theme.dark color. And now our application has the H1 styled with this color. This way, now we could go in all the components and replace everywhere we had colors with these. So I could add another one. So for example, this blue, I could go into app and call it primary color, for example. And now you could come here and replace everywhere with primary color and light and dark colors. You're not limited to colors in these theme variables. So you can add default padding values, default margin values. So you don't have to remember, oh, I put 12 pixels on that component or 14 on the other one. You can just have them as constants, so you won't change them. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how you can change your the styling for one of your components based on pseudo selector effects on the other one. So for example, we will go into the footer and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to import again styled from style components, and here we're going to create two constants. So one is going to be footer container is going to be a styled div, and the other one is going to be const footer text is going to be a styled h2. Now on the outer footer, so is this created by Raul here, on the outer div we just want to do some basic styling. So let's add a background color, and now we are going to access that theme that we created. So we're going to destructure the theme and return theme.dark color, for example. The color of the text is going to be, let's say, white. Let's put it on the div so we can see it. So the color of the text is going to be white. Let's add a padding of 12 pixels. And let's also display it flex and justify the content. And just so this animation right here doesn't overlap our div, let's add a margin top of 24 pixels. And now you can see our text is aligned in the middle. And what I want to do now is I want to change the color of this text when we hover on the container. So when we hover the header, I want this text to change its color. So let's add some styling first to that. I'm going to move the color white on the footer text just so it's more representative, let's say, so you'll know where this color comes from. Okay, let's make the font size 24 pixels so we can see it a little better. And let's add the footer text on the H2. Let's make it also 32 pixels. So just so it becomes bigger so we see it better. And now I want to access this footer container right here. So how we do that is, again, $, and between brackets, we're gonna get the component that we want. And now we have the hover effect on that component. and an and sign. And now here between brackets, here we can write all the styling that we want applied to this footer text whenever we hover the footer container. So what I will do here is change the color to, again, get the theme, and I'm gonna set it to theme.light color. And if I save, now if we go into our application, you can see whenever I hover the footer container, the color of the footer text changes. Just so you can see, I'm not actually hovering the footer text. I'm gonna set a border of 1px. So you can see that's the whole footer text, so it doesn't have any padding on it. I can hover anywhere and its color changes. Great. So I hope you learned a lot in this Style Components crash course. We went through a lot of items pretty quickly. We looked at how you can add basic styling to one of your components and create a style component, how you can style elements inside of a style component, how you can access the props of a style component, and how you make styling based on pseudo selectors, also media queries. After that, we looked at animations and how you can create them using style components. After, we created some global styling and a default theme for our application. By the way, this default theme, you could just change the object that is passed to this theme provider, and you could switch between a light and a dark theme. So you could have a button here and it would toggle between some state. So if it's true, you would pass a light theme to this theme provider. If it's set to false, you would pass a dark theme to this theme provider. And this way you can easily change between light and dark colors. Just make sure your theme objects have the same keys, and then your colors will switch automatically. I will do a video sometimes in the future about how you actually make a nice dark mode using style components. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get notified when that video comes out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like it so I know to make more videos like this one. Also, tell me in the comments below if you enjoyed it, if you want me to make other videos about how you can style React. And thank you all for watching. If you wanna chat with me on Twitter, link will be in the description below. Have a great day.